Good God, what was that? Dr. Frank's face had gone white. Snap stood like a statue of horror. The deck here was patched as always, with silver radiance from the deck ports. The empty deck chairs stood about. The scream was stilled, but now we heard a commotion inside, the rasp of opening cabin doors, questions from frightened passengers. I found my voice. Anita. Anita Prince. Come on, shouted Snap. In her stateroom, A22. He was dashing for the lounge archway. Dr. Frank and I followed. I realized that we passed the deck door and window of A22. But they were dark, and evidently sealed on the inside. The dim lounge was in a turmoil, passengers standing at their cabin doors. I shouted, "Go back to your rooms. We want order here, keep back." We came to the twin doors of A22 and A20. Both were closed. Dr. Frank was in advance of Snap and me now. He paused at the sound of Captain Carter's voice behind us. Was it from in there? Wait a moment. Carter dashed up. He had a large heat ray projector in his hand. He shoved us aside. Let me in first. Is the door sealed? Greg, keep those passengers back. The door was not sealed. Carter burst into the room. I heard him gasp, "Good God." Snap and I shoved back 3 or 4 passengers. And in that instant Dr. Frank had been in the room and out again. There's been an accident. Get back, Greg. Snap, help me keep the crowd away. He shoved me forcibly. From within, Carter was shouting, "Keep them out." Where are you, Frank? Come back here. Send a flash for Balch. Dr. Frank went back into the room and banged the cabin door upon Snap and me. I was unarmed. Weapon in hand, Snap forced the panic-stricken passengers back to their rooms. Snap reassured them glibly, but he knew no more about the facts than I and Moa, with a nightrobe drawn tight around her thin, tall figure, edged up to me. What has happened? Said Haljan. I gazed around for her brother Miko, but did not see him. An accident, I said shortly. Go back to your room. Captain's orders. She eyed me and then retreated. Snap was threatening everybody with his cylinder. Balch dashed up. What in hell? Where is Carter? In there. I pounded on A22. It opened cautiously. I could see only Carter, but I heard the murmuring voice of Dr. Frank through the interior connecting door to A20. The captain rasped, "Get out, Haljan." Oh, is that you, Balch? Come in. He admitted the older officer and slammed the door upon me again. And immediately reopened it. Greg, keep the passengers quieted. Tell them everything's all right. Miss Prince got frightened, that's all. Then go to the turret. Tell Blackstone what's happened. But I don't know what's happened. Carter was grim and white. He whispered, I think it may turn out to be murder, Greg. No, not dead yet. Dr. Frank is trying, don't stand there like an ass, man. Get to the turret. Verify our trajectory, no wait. The captain was almost incoherent. Wait a minute. I don't mean that. Tell Snap to watch his radio room. Arm yourselves and guard our weapons. I stammered, if she dies, will you flash us word? He stared at me strangely. "I'll be there presently, Greg." He slammed the door upon me. I followed his orders, but it was like a dream of horror. The turmoil of the ship gradually quieted. Snap went to the radio room, Blackstone and I sat in the tiny chart room. How much time passed, I do not know. I was confused. Anita hurt. She might die, murdered. But why? By whom? Had George Prince been in his own room when the attack came? I thought now I recalled hearing the low murmur of his voice in there with Dr. Frank. Where was Miko? It stabbed at me. I had not seen him among the passengers in the lounge. Carter came into the chart room. "Greg, you get to bed. You look like a ghost." "But she's not dead. She may live. Dr. Frank and her brother are with her. They're doing all they can." He told us what had happened. Anita and George Prince had both been asleep, each in his respective room. Someone unknown had opened Anita's corridor door. Wasn't it sealed? Yes. But the intruder opened it. Burst it? I didn't think it was broken. It wasn't broken. The assailant opened it somehow, and assaulted Miss Prince, shot her in the chest with a heat ray. Her left lung. Shot her? Yes. But she did not see who did it. Nor did Prince. Her scream awakened him, but the intruder evidently fled out the corridor door of A22, the way he entered. I stood weak and shaken at the chart room entrance. Anita dying, perhaps, and all my dreams were fading into a memory of what might have been. I was glad enough to get away. I would lie down for an hour and then go to Anita's stateroom. I demand that Dr. Frank let me see her. I went to the stern deck where my cubby was located. My mind was confused, but some instinct within me made me verify the seals of my door and window. They were intact. I entered cautiously, switched on the dimmer of the tube lights, and searched the room. It had only a bunk, my tiny desk, a chair, and clothes robe. There was no evidence of any intruder here. I set my door and window alarm. Then I audiphoned to the radio room. Snap? Yes. I told him about Anita. Carter cut in on us from the chart room. Stop that, you fools. We cut off. Fully dressed, I flung myself on my bed. Anita might die. I must have fallen into a tortured sleep. I was awakened by the sound of my alarm buzzer. Someone was tampering with my door. Then the buzzer ceased. The marauder outside must have found a way of silencing it. But it had done its work, awakened me. I had switched off the light. My cubby was Stygian black. A heat cylinder was in the bunk bracket over my head. I searched for it, pried it loose softly. I was fully awake. Alert! I could hear a faint sizzling, someone outside trying to unseal the door. In the darkness, cylinder in hand, I crept softly from the bunk. Crouched at the door. This time I would capture or kill this night prowler. The sizzling was faintly audible. My door seal was breaking. Upon impulse I reached for the door, jerked it open. No one there. The starlit segment of deck was empty. But I leaped and struck a solid body, crouching in the doorway. A giant man. Miko. His electronized metallic robe burned my hands. I lunged against him. I was almost as surprised as he. I shot, but the stab of heat evidently missed him. The shock of my encounter short-circuited his robe. He materialized in the starlight. A brief, savage encounter. He struck the weapon from my hand. He had dropped his hydrogen torch and tried to grip me. But I twisted away from his hold. So it's you. Quiet, Greg Haljan. I only want to talk. Without warning, a stab of radiance shot from a weapon in his hand. It caught me. Ran like ice through my veins. Seized and numbed my limbs. I fell helpless to the deck. Nerves and muscles paralyzed. My tongue was thick and inert. I could not speak, nor move. But I could see Nico bending over me, and hear him. I don't want to kill you, Haljan. We need you. He gathered me up like a bundle in his huge arms, carried me swiftly across the deserted deck. Snap's radio room in the network under the dome was diagonally overhead. A white actinic light shot from it, caught us, bathed us. Snap had been awake, had heard the commotion of our encounter. His voice rang shrilly, "Stop! I'll shoot!" His warning siren rang out to alert the ship. His spotlight clung to us. Nico ran with me a few steps. Then he cursed and dropped me, fled away. I fell like a sack of carbide to the deck. My senses faded into blackness. He's all right now. I was in the chart room with Captain Carter, Snap and Dr. Frank bending over me. The surgeon said, "Can you speak now, Greg?" I tried it. My tongue was thick, but it moved. Yes. I was soon revived. I sat up, with Dr. Frank vigorously rubbing me. I'm all right. I told them what had happened. Captain Carter said, "Yes, we know that. And it was Miko also who killed Anita Prince. She told us before she died." Died. I leaped to my feet. She died. Yes, Greg. An hour ago. Miko got into her stateroom and tried to force his love upon her. She repulsed him. He killed her. It struck me blank. And then with a rush came the thought, he says Miko killed her. I heard myself stammering, why we must get him. I gathered my wits, a surge of hate swept me, a wild desire for vengeance. Why, by God, where is he? Why don't you go get him? I'll get him, I'll kill him. Easy, Greg. Dr. Frank gripped me. The captain said gently, "We know how you feel, Greg. She told us before she died. I'll bring him in here to you. But I'll kill him, I tell you." No, you won't, lad. We don't want him killed, not attacked, even. Not yet. We'll explain later. They sat me down, calming me. Anita dead. The door of the shining garden was closed. A brief glimpse given to me and to her of what might have been. And now she was dead.